Hey writers, here's a question for you. How bad slash pathetic slash scary slash depressing slash pick your negative adjective is being self-published really? Are there even pros to it or is it all cons? Because it kind of seems like there are only cons, right? All right, writers. So today we are clearly addressing the pros and cons of being self-published. And believe it or not, there are pros to it, just like there's more than one side to being traditionally published. Since we covered the pros and cons of being traditionally published last Monday, I'm going to leave the link for it in the description below. But other than that, we're really not going to rehash that subject material. This is all self-publishing, for better and for worse. Now, most creative writers, when they first start out, don't even think about self-publishing. Why should they when they're going right to the top of the novel charts? Move on over, baby, so you don't get trampled. Nonfiction writers, I do think, are typically a little more practical than that, probably because they know it's typically novelists who rule the publishing roost and therefore get the big bucks. Yet, no matter what kind of writing you do, self-publishing might actually be a viable option. Not even a last-ditch sort of possibility, a viable option right from the start. That's not to say it always is, but it can be. And in order to know whether you'll be happier and or more successful going the self-publishing route, you kind of have to know what it involves, what it doesn't involve, and what it might involve. In other words, you have to know the pros and cons of being self-published. We'll start out with the definite cons. As a self-published author, you're on your own to produce a polished final copy. It's all on you to either edit the book all by yourself, which is not recommended since we writers have a tendency to mess silly and even major stuff up when left to our own devices. Rely mainly on friends and family to tell us how to improve our writing, which is more recommended but still poses some significant problems, or pay a professional editor out of pocket, which can be expensive, maybe even really expensive. A self-published author is also responsible for designing or paying someone else to design their own front cover, and a self-published author is responsible for doing all of his or her own marketing or paying someone else to do it. If that seems like a definite lose, lose, lose situation, then keep listening because here are the definite pros. Number one, you don't have to waste your time searching for a literary agent or publisher, a process that can take months or years without a single guarantee that any of your efforts will amount to anything. You just hit the publish button when you're good and ready. Number two, which actually there's only two here, but they're very important, especially in my opinion, this one. There is no chance whatsoever that you're going to sign away your rights to your book. Nobody owns it, nobody owns you, both of which are entirely big deals. That means that nobody's going to force you at point of contract to change beloved details about your book or shove a front cover down your throat that you can't stand, again, at contract point, or set you up on a mandatory deadline to produce a second work that you don't have time to write well, much less publish well. And yes, all of those things can have, and no doubt will again, happen to traditionally published authors. To me, those are pretty big pros to consider to the point where I am self-published and happy to stay that way. Perhaps you would be too. Then again, perhaps you wouldn't be. That's up to you to determine. Regardless, you may have noticed that last week we did include an iffy section along with the definite pros and definite cons, but because self-publishing is a lot more straightforward, basically, you publish it and then you either successfully market or you don't, there isn't much of an iffy section to be had here. In the same way, next week we're going to cut out another section from our pros, cons, and iffy listing. That's because there's no pros and cons to going the vanity publisher route. There's only one way, and you'll have to tune in next week to figure that out. All right, I hope you have a great week. Happy writing, and I'll see you all later. Bye.